All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our workshop on the A to Z of anxiety. So, my name is Kanika Mohan. I'm a psychologist here at MindTribe. I primarily deal with cases related to depression, anxiety, emotional regulation, grief, just to name a few. I'm also joined by my colleagues who will be active answering any questions on the chat box and ensuring that we have a smooth session overall today. So just a few ground rules. Please keep your mics and videos off for the duration of the session. If you have any question or if you have any comments, please use the hand raise button or the chat box. I will get back to you regarding it if I'm not already in the middle of a point. Right. So before starting off, I want to mention that this workshop is a part of a series of workshops that we have developed, which will focus on identifying and managing anxiety. I will give you all more details regarding these workshops further in the presentation. Before we begin, just a small disclaimer. So, this workshop is not meant to diagnose or cure anxiety completely. Our aim for this workshop basically is to provide a safe space for you all to explore some techniques and gain a better understanding of anxiety. So, we'll start off with a question. If anxiety were a color, what color would it be for you and why? Again, please feel free to use the hand raise button or drop your answers in the chat box. All right, someone said red. Someone said so blue and gray, black, yellow. Yes, Paul, you can go ahead and answer.
Yes, red and yellow both. I'm feeling.
All right, and why would you say that it's red and yellow?
It's coming like red and yellow. Yellow especially, then after that red.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you so much for answering. Sri Lakshmi mentioned red because I'm suffering like hell right now due to that. I have become a panic button nowadays. All right, so red associated with emergency with panic. Understandable. A lot of people mentioned yellow and black. Black and white, purple. That's definitely a unique color to choose. Um, Red because it causes a sense of fear. Red, green. Okay, green is also something that's relatively new. Right? Does anybody want to give a reason as to why they feel that this specific color? Neha said printed things. Well, that's a very unique take on it for sure. Mm-hmm. Right. So the common colors that are basically coming are black, white, red, yellow, purple as I have a fear of missing out on good things. Black because it's blank for me. Okay, definitely. And I feel black, red, these are colors that are usually associated with, some pretty heavy things, dark things, sometimes negative things as well. Plain canvas. Okay, not black, it's blacked. Okay. All right. Thank you everyone for your answers. And I definitely liked hearing about your different takes on this. So, someone mentioned black because fear of how, why, what, when. Yellow because I feel like I'm stuck in the middle, whether to stop or should go with the flow. Being in between spaces makes sense. Anxiety feels black because it's like being trapped in a heavy, endless darkness you can't see through. Definitely. I feel like a lot of people would relate to that. Right. And thank you all for your answers. So we'll jump right in and talk about what actually anxiety is. So we use the word so casually, but what does it really mean? So anxiety is a natural biological response that exists to protect us. It's not a flaw. It's not something that means that something is wrong with you. You can think of it as a smoke alarm in your house. So when there's real danger, like a fire, that alarm is life saving. It's loud, it's uncomfortable, but it's basically meant to help you survive. Now, imagine cooking something slightly smoky in the kitchen, and the alarm goes off even though there's no real danger. Your body works the same way. Anxiety is that alarm meant to alert you when something might be harmful. The issue is when the alarm becomes too sensitive and goes off even when nothing is actually wrong. So, anxiety at its core is not really the enemy, it's a system designed to keep you safe. It just sometimes becomes quite overprotective. Now, sorry, let's talk about the difference between normal and healthy anxiety and an anxiety disorder. So, feeling anxious before an exam, before giving a presentation, before even meeting someone new, that's completely normal. It basically comes, it peaks, and then it goes away once that situation is over. But an anxiety disorder is different. So instead of being temporary and situational, it becomes persistent. It sticks around for weeks or months. It becomes intense and disproportionate to actual emergency situations around you. And most importantly, it starts interfering with your daily life. So we have two cases here to discuss to kind of help you understand the difference between normal anxiety and anxiety disorder in more give you more of a perspective here. So the first case is of Raghav, who is a successful student but experiences pre-exam stress occasionally. On the day of the exam, some of the symptoms that he feels includes butterflies in the stomach, a slightly elevated heart rate, sweaty palms, nervous and tense. On the other hand, we have the case of Aparna, who is a 20-year-old marketing professional who recently was promoted in her job. Sorry. Some of the experience that she's having include uncontrollable and excessive worry, irritability, feeling constantly restless, and difficulty in concentrating on any task given to her. So basically, her thinking patterns include just overthinking everything going on and catastrophizing, which basically means that she's thinking about the most extreme consequence that can happen in a situation, mostly in a negative context. So my question to you is now that you've seen these two cases, what would you say is the difference between the two cases? Which one would you say is normal anxiety, and which one would kind of borderline an anxiety disorder? Yes, Sri Lakshmi.
Ma'am, second one is the borderline anxiety disorder, I think, because I am kind of suffering from that right now. First is normal, like many people experience it, I think.
Right, definitely. Thank you, Sri Lakshmi.
Sounds like an old person. Can you please talk normally?
I'm
It's like
sorry.
I think it's the internet or issue something.
Oh, am I not audible to you? Is my voice not clear?
Yeah.
Is that
Ma'am,
yeah?
no, ma'am. I think the problem is from his side.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Sri Lakshmi. Um, right. Someone said that in second one has severe symptoms of anxiety. Raghav is normal. First case is normal. Raghav has healthy stress, and the woman may have GAD. All right. Yes, Praveen, would you like to answer?
Yes. So maybe these two cases are normal sometimes. Why? Because the second person who is having job recently means he or she may not experience the job earlier. Maybe this is
Mm-hmm.
the very first time, um, like a homesick feeling,
Mm-hmm.
like that. Seems both may normal, but after having some days of experience, she or he may get normal. like everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Praveen. I completely understand your
The
perspective.
previous page for once more. I want to write them down.
Yeah, sure. Here you go. Yeah, so you guys can have another read on the two cases, and if you want to answer, then go ahead. Does anybody else want to? Do you have something to add, Sri Lakshmi?
No, ma'am. I think second one I really understand that because nowadays I am feeling like that because I can't study after many from childhood itself we have this reward system and we are always rewarded for the things we do like even if it's a short time but now when I failed I can't crack the exams I wanted to clear I am feeling very like I can't study the anxiety is very increasing like where I'm going towards but I also can't switch to a low standard that's a high standard I have kept and that's the anxiety which disturbs me so I can well relate with that so I think it's not the same.
Mm-hmm. All right, definitely. Thank you for sharing that, Sri Lakshmi, and I really hope that,
Answer.
through a little bit of this
What is
session,
the real answer
yes.
of? What is the real answer of this question?
Right. Most of you have basically got it right. Raghav's case is normal anxiety because there is a very clear reason behind it, which is, him experiencing on the day of his exam. Whereas in Aparna's case, despite, someone mentioning that it could be because of, a recent job promotion, but um, we basically see that despite that situation, it's quite uncontrollable and excessive worry. So it's about every small thing rather than just the fact that she got a new job. So Aparna's case would be anxiety that needs to be taken a look at more in like counseling sessions, while Raghav's situation was more of anxiety because of an exam or just feeling stressed because of an exam. You're right. Sometimes catastrophizing and manifesting is the worst feeling, yes. And because of her overthinking and catastrophizing, even if there isn't any specific situation that is causing her, like, could be something that she needs to worry about, something that she needs to, navigate around. It's just her overthinking and her catastrophizing of even a normal situation that could contribute to that anxiety, which is not necessarily to in an exam setting because once the exam is done then you feel normal, but this is a constant worry, constant thought pattern that something will go wrong, which makes it
Kanika, excuse me.
yeah.
Can I share? Can I add one more a small example, a real life example, to justify uh, the second one, which is seems to be abnormal.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say nowadays there are no software jobs in IT industry, very
Mm-hmm.
less jobs, and the engineering people are coming out in very high density. So
Mm-hmm.
what will happen? They used to learn technologies and they are coming to the industry by putting some fake experience. Okay, they are putting some experience and coming to the industry. So in this case, what will happen? They don't know what is the real experience
Mm-hmm.
in the industry earlier. So exactly, this is what happening at this case. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this is also another example in the real life.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. I get your point, Praveen. And you weren't wrong to think in terms of this could be normal because it is also a matter of, perspective. Um, I know that we mentioned her having a new job promotion and all of that, which makes it seem like she has a very clear reason in this example to have that anxiety. But that uncontrollable and excessive worry was meant to kind of indicate that that worry wasn't necessarily just related to her job, but affecting other aspects of her life as well. But you are correct. It can, if you look at it from a different perspective, it can be something that is related to, that change of job or it that anxiety or something that comes with just the turbulent working industry right now. So I completely agree with you. You're not wrong in your thinking of it, but just for the sake of this example, we just wanted to differentiate between how it can be different, how, a normal anxiety because of one specific situation versus anxiety that's persistent through different aspects of your life. But yeah, I do agree with you that, and your example was really well put. A lot of people definitely do feel like that, especially in the way that the IT industry is changing right now. Right. So moving on, we'll be talking a bit about the different types of anxiety. So anxiety isn't just one thing; it has different versions for different people, and some of the anxieties that that people can kind of experience in their life in the form of an anxiety disorder are mentioned on your screen. I'll go through them one by one. So, for some people, anxiety may be something that shows up as a constant worry about every little thing. It's sort of like a background hum that never stops. If that is
Yeah,
something
I
you,
have that. The same thing I have.
all right, thank you. Um, so yeah, that will basically be defined as something we call generalized anxiety disorder. So it's persistent in every aspect of your life. There is no very specific trigger. It's just a constant worry about every small thing that could potentially go wrong. For others, it can appear as a fear of judgment, overthinking how they sound, how they look, or what other people think. That's social anxiety. Some people experience sudden intense fear along with physical symptoms like a pounding heart, dizziness. That's a panic disorder. And of course, then there are specific phobias like fear of flying, fear of heights, fear of dogs, fear of driving. That, you know, it could be about anything. There are specific names and everything for that. There is also separation anxiety, which people often think only children have, but it can also show up in older teens and adults too. And it's basically characterized by worrying excessively about being away from someone you're attached to. So, the point of kind of telling you about these different types of anxiety is to help you kind of understand what type feels the closest to you. Um, to help you understand what you experience and
Kanika, in this in the future slides, are we discussing the how to deal with the with this type of anxiety,
um,
right?
right. We will talk a bit about how like this type of anxiety can manifest itself, and we will go about that. Just again, one small request to all of you. I will take your questions, and like I mentioned before, my colleagues are also present in this meeting. If you have a question, just please raise your hand or write it in the chat box, and I promise you I will get to it. If not me, then my colleagues will definitely get to it because it kind of, it disrupts my flow. And we are, it's this workshop is till 8 o'clock, so I don't want to like push it forward because other people might have other commitments as well. So I'm genuinely very happy about how enthusiastic you all are to understand about anxiety, but please just, let's maintain the ground rules for this workshop.
Can you explain specific phobia here?
Right. So, like I mentioned, specific phobia is just a very intense fear about something. Like, a lot of people may have this fear, this phobia of dogs. Like, even just looking at a picture of a dog or seeing a dog in like a reel or on TV can make them feel excessively worried, panicky. So, that's specific phobia. It can be heights, it can be snakes, it can basically be anything under the sun. That's basically specific phobia, just very intense fear of one specific thing.
Wouldn't this come in anxiety disorder?
Yes, it is a type of anxiety disorder, which is why it is mentioned here in types of anxiety. So these are all different types of anxiety disorder that we classify in psychology. Right. So now we'll clarify something a lot of people get confused about, which is basically the difference between stress, anxiety, and panic. So stress is our reaction to an external pressure. You know exactly what's stressing you out. Maybe it's deadlines, maybe it's family responsibilities, maybe it's exams. Sorry, anxiety, however, is more internal. You might feel anxious even when nothing is happening externally. So You can be lying in bed and everything around you might be very normal, very calm, but suddenly your mind starts racing. That's basically anxiety. So the trigger is vague or internal in this case. And then we have panic.
Can you explain this internal external once again?
Right. So external, like I said, you feel stressed because of a specific situation. Your exams are coming up. So you feel stressed because, you have to prepare for those exams. You're worried about that. You have a very important presentation at work coming up. So you're very stressed about whether that presentation will go well or not. So that's an external source causing you to feel stress. Anxiety, on the other hand, doesn't necessarily have a very clear reason. It's something that, it's just your thought process, your internal emotions, like worrying about something that hasn't really even happened yet. So, you're thinking about that, there's a lot of like traffic in, the city that you're living in, and you're worried the next day that you might be late because of it. Because of that, you start feeling anxious that, my boss might get mad at me if I'm late. You start thinking of the worst case scenario basically even before it has happened. So it's more internal. I hope that cleared your doubt, Amrita.
What is the difference between panic and anxiety?
Right. So coming to panic, panic is basically your body going into full alarm mode. It's sudden, it's intense. You will feel like your heart is racing, your chest is tightening, you feel breathlessness, you feel like you're losing control. And in very extreme cases, some people even feel like they're having a heart attack and they're dying. So panic attacks usually peak within 10 minutes. They feel terrifying. And like I mentioned before, people mistake them for something wrong physiologically with them. So they might go to a doctor and say that they felt like they were having a heart attack. They feel like there's something wrong with their heart. So the difference basically between anxiety is that it gradually builds, but panic is something that kind of immediately takes over you. It can be a consequence of anxiety, but it can also be two very separate things. So if I have to
Okay.
compare this,
Can you explain the difference once again between panic and anxiety?
Yeah. Once more, please.
all right. So panic is very sudden. It's like a sudden wave of fear that happens. So, like for example, you hear very bad news about like something happening to a loved one and you suddenly get into full panic mode. Or if you see the news and you see that something happened in an area where your family lives, you suddenly get this wave of panic. Are they okay or not? It has a lot of like physiological symptoms attached to it, like, feeling breathlessness, feeling, your heart is beating very fast. So that's panic. Anxiety, on the other hand, is just a constant worry that kind of just lingers in your head. It may not immediately, it may not be because of an immediate threat in the environment or something that's making you afraid. It's just the thought of, the worst that can happen in the future. You kind of anticipate the worst situations,
And
even though those
sometimes
situations haven't arised.
present circumstances also lead to anxiety. It's not always worry about the future.
Right. Definitely. Like I said, that it can be present situations, but it's generally characterized by the way that you think of those situations. So, you are stuck in a traffic jam, you're going to get late for work, and that can cause a lot of stress. That can be a reason for anxiety because you don't want to be late for work. But what's kind of aggravating that anxiety is the fact that you're worrying that my boss is going to be mad at me. So it is something that is happening in the present that is causing that. But it's your anticipation of the worst case scenario, that you think that the worst thing is going to happen to me, which is leading to that anxiety. Yes, somebody raised their hand.
Can you please tell me how to deal with anxiety and how to solve this problem?
Right. We will be kind of going more into it. That I will touch upon it a little bit after certain slides. So I will get back to you on that. Don't worry. Um, right. So again, we just have a few examples here to help you guys.
And how is stress and anxiety different?
Right. So, stress basically, like I said, it's because of something immediately happening around you. So, stress is something that is, for example, you have like a presentation that's coming up. So, you know that you are feeling stress because of that presentation. You want it to go well. After that presentation is over, that stress also goes. So, it's very situational. It's not something that persists for a long period of time. So once that presentation is over, your stress is over. Anxiety, on the other hand, is that even though the presentation is over, you're thinking about maybe the next presentation that you'll have to give. Even though there is no set date for it, there is no, um, you know, it's not going to come up anytime soon, but you're constantly worried about something, that hasn't happened, the future presentation that hasn't happened. So that's the difference between anxiety and stress. Stress is momentary, while anxiety is persisting, right? Okay, so I will now move on. So again, I'll try to explain these three things in an example so it might be clear to all of you better. So this is basically a case of Sarah, who's a 29-year-old marketing executive. So she works in a fast-paced advertising agency. Over the past few months, her workload has increased due to upcoming project deadlines, and she's noticed changes in her physical and emotional state, and seeks help to understand what's happening with her. So this is the background of our case. Now, let's take the example of stress. So let's say that Sarah has been working late nights to meet her deadlines, which is why she often feels tense, gets headaches, and finds it hard to concentrate. But when the project finally ends, these symptoms subside. So when we look at the trigger, it's very identifiable. So it's the workload and the deadlines which are causing her stress. As you can see that the duration was just till the project was over. So while the project was happening, while she was working on it, she was feeling stress. But immediately after the project finished, her stress was gone. And some of the symptoms that you can kind of see was the tension, the irritability, her difficulty in concentrating. It's not mentioned here, but even fatigue, sleep disturbance can also be something that is associated with stress. Now, in terms of anxiety, let's say that even after completing the project, Sarah finds herself worrying about future tasks. She constantly feels uneasy, her heart races, and she imagines things going wrong at work, even though they haven't. So these feelings occur even when there is no specific stressor. So, like I mentioned, the trigger here, there is no specific trigger. Like, there is nothing immediately happening in her present environment that is causing her any particular stress, and it's persistent. So she's always feeling a bit uneasy. She's always feeling like her heart is racing. It goes on for weeks, it can go on for months. Then excessive worry, just a constant restlessness. One very common symptom of anxiety is hypervigilance, which is basically you're constantly assessing your environment. You're looking to see if there's anything in the environment immediately that can harm you, even when there's nothing present there. So that causes that restlessness, muscle tension, sleep disturbance, and racing thoughts. Then we have panic. So one afternoon, while she's preparing for a presentation, Sarah suddenly feels her heart pounding rapidly. She can't catch her breath. She feels dizzy. She feels that she's having a heart attack. And these episodes peak within minutes, lasts about 10 minutes, and then leave her feeling completely drained. So the trigger is, maybe something while she was working on the presentation, those anxious thoughts were a bit too much. And so that kind of caused her to spiral into a panic, all of that anxiety kind of adding up. So the duration, like I said, panic attacks basically last 10 minutes and subside within 30 minutes. And then the symptoms are very, evident physiologically. So rapid heartbeat, shortness of breath, dizziness, chest pain, these are a few of them. Right. So through these examples, is it clear now what the difference between stress, anxiety, and panic is? If it is, then you can give me a quick thumbs up. All right, thank you. Right. So some few, other areas where people often get confused between anxiety is with OCD and depression. So they can overlap, but they're not the same. So anxiety is driven by fear and worry, especially the what if thoughts. OCD, on the other hand, involves intrusive thoughts and repetitive behaviors. So, for instance, someone with OCD might have a disturbing thought like, "What if I accidentally harm someone?" And then they perform certain actions like checking or washing repeatedly to reduce that anxiety that they feel because of it. Whereas in depression, it's more about low mood, lack of motivation, feeling empty or numb, losing interest in things once you enjoyed. And the tricky part with depression is that it kind of goes hand in hand with anxiety. So you may worry intensely, but you also feel drained to do anything about those worries. So sometimes they can be separate. Like someone can just be dealing with depression while a person may be dealing with anxiety. Sometimes some people deal with both of them at the same time. So these can't the all OCD, anxiety, depression, they're all different, but sometimes they sit quite close to one another, which is why they seem similar in nature for many people.
Can you
Now,
explain that again, if you don't mind?
all right. Okay, so I'll explain it again. Anxiety is basically the what if thoughts, the constant worry about something that hasn't happened. On the other hand, depression is just feeling very low, feeling very, negatively about every situation in your life. That, life is not worth living. Nobody really loves me. Nobody cares for me. These are some common thoughts people have in depression. Whereas in OCD, it's basically this anxiety that needs to be tamed by doing these repetitive patterns. So people washing their hands repeatedly because they're worried about being contaminated, like having germs. They're worried about falling sick. Some people also constantly have to check whether the doors are locked or not when they leave a house. They have to do it excessively because they're worried about, whether the security would be breached. So it's anxiety followed by doing a repetitive pattern of something excessively to the point where it might even be harmful for you. So I hope that's clear. All right. So
Anxiety and OCD thing is not clear. Anxiety combined with OCD thing.
it's not really combined. It's just in anxiety you have a lot of thoughts. You're very worried about things, but you don't have you just kind of deal with that worry. You live with that anxiousness, that you know feeling of uneasiness. But OCD is there is something, there's kind of an obsessive thought in your mind that I have to stay clean. I have to, be far away from things that could potentially make me sick. I'm not going to touch something which may potentially have germs on it or someone else has touched. And in order to deal with that, the anxiety that comes with, wanting to stay away from things that may be, contaminated, you follow certain patterns like washing your hands too. Um, Basically feel that anxiety less that comes with the thought of potentially falling sick.
Okay.
Right. So now we'll move on to the ad break. So if anybody wants to take, go drink water, if they want a bit of a movement break, this is the time to do that.
Can
So
I
what
ask
is
you a question, please?
yes, Lakshya?
Why does anxiety feel high energy while depression feel low energy?
Anxiety feels high energy basically. So the physiological reason behind it is that anxiety activates something in our body called the fight or flight system. So what the flight or flight system does is that whenever there is an actual threat in our environment, it makes us alert. It makes us active to fight it, to deal with it, either to run away with it or to actively fight it. Depression, on the other hand, is something which is caused by other kind of parts in your brain. It's the lack of certain hormones or the lack of certain chemicals which make you feel very low energy, very drained. It doesn't activate the fight or flight. It just makes you feel very low because of negative thoughts, because of negative circumstances that happen around you. Right, low dopamine is one reason behind why people have depression. So that is why there is a
How does
difference in
the
energy.
depression help the caveman?
How can it help the caveman? One second. See, in terms of the evolutionary perspective, we know why anxiety exists in us. We know where that kind of stems from. Depression, on the other hand, is not necessarily something that we can explain from an evolutionary perspective, because you know, anxiety stems from our ancestors having to deal with specific situations, like specific phobias. You may live in a city, but you're afraid of snakes, even though you never in the city life you don't encounter it as much. So from an evolutionary perspective, that's because our ancestors used to kind of have to deal with them. So we've learned through evolution, through it passing on through our genes, that um, we need to be afraid of them. So anxiety can in a way be explained by that. In terms of depression, it's more, I wouldn't call it recent, but it has to do with like certain part. It's more biological basis. Like there are certain parts of your brain that are kind of effective during depression, which can be because of you know genetic reasons or whatever, but also like I mentioned, these neurotransmitters not being generated in the capacity that they're supposed to in the brain. So it's not necessarily an evolutionary perspective, but more of a biological perspective that explains depression.
Some
Right.
are neurotransmitters emitted in anxiety.
Yes, there are neurotransmitters that do kind of impact anxiety, which is why medication in anxiety kind of focuses on dealing with that. So, like I said, flight or flight, it releases adrenaline. So, excessive adrenaline in the body can lead to persistent anxiety. So, you have medication that kind of helps you deal with that to lower those levels so that you don't feel that.
I'm like depression, it's due to certain chemical reactions in the brain. Is anxiety also due to that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I said depression, we say there's certain chemical reactions in the brain.
Mhm.
And is anxiety also due to those chemical reactions in the brain?
That is one explanation for it, but there are many explanations for any psychological disorder, whether it's depression, anxiety. It can have a biological basis, it can have an environmental basis, as well as a psychological basis.
But
So it can be
both
because of.
both
Mhm.
of them have this thing also there with it, that certain chemical reactions can lead to both anxiety and depression, right?
Yes, it can.
Okay, okay, okay.
Which
Right.
one affects motivation more, anxiety or depression?
It really depends. Depression lowers your motivation. Anxiety can also be a hindrance to motivation, because in depression you just don't feel like doing something, while in anxiety, even if you have to do something, even if you want to do something, the fear of it going wrong can be a hindrance to motivation. Right. Again, we will kind of have a part after this workshop where we will leave some space for you guys to have some question and answers. So because it's already 7:38 and we still have a bunch to cover. So please, again, I have my colleagues in the chat box who are willing to answer any more questions or to clarify points that you didn't understand. If not, then you can wait till the end of the workshop and I will answer your questions. So again, what is one-on-one counseling? So one-on-one counseling is a personalized, confidential session between a client and a therapist. It can have many benefits. It can help you with personal growth, helping you understand your thoughts, behaviors, emotions, help you with problem solving, any type of, specific issues going on in your life. And it can also help you work towards specialized goals. So, one of the biggest misconceptions related to counseling is that it's only for people who are sick, or it's only something that you take when things are completely out of hand. In reality, counseling is for anybody who wants to be their best version. So, if you want better relationships, if you want more friends, if you want academic success, career advancement, then this is something that you can consider. So why choose MindTribe specifically when it comes to counseling? So we are a group of very highly trained counselors who would love to help you with whatever you're going through. We have affordable charges ranging from 800 to 5,000 depending on the counselor, and we Our first session is at rupees 449, and we also have affordable packages that you can opt for, which are a little more discounted. Right. So, does anybody have any questions related to this about
Yeah,
how
what is the
counseling?
lowest price of this?
800 or 1,000 is the lowest price per session, but if you opt for a package, then it becomes a little bit more discounted. You can go on our page, you can look at the different counselors' pages, and it does mention packages as well. So you can see which one becomes, a bit more discounted through those packages. Right. Anybody else have any more questions related to this? If not, you can give me a thumbs up. And if anything else comes on later on, you can put it in the chat box, and again, my colleagues will help with that. Right. So now we have a small activity for all of you, which is a checklist. These are some of the common symptoms that people experience when they have anxiety. When they have anxiety. So we'll go through them one by one, and you can give me a quick thumbs up to tell me if this is something you experience or not. So number one, feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge in the past 2 weeks. Okay, I see a lot of thumbs up. So I feel like a lot of people have been experiencing that recently. Sorry, then excessive worry about daily situations. Mm-hmm. Right, Nikita, you want to say something? Okay. Then physical signs like rapid heartbeat. Okay, one person, two people.
Actually, physical signs are not showing in my case. Only the feeling nervous and anxious. Is this anxiety or not?
Um, it could be. I mean, like I would have to kind of understand your situation more. Um, it could just be a worry about something. Like I said, it could just be stress in that situation. But again,
Daily happening actually daily basis, and without any physical signs. You're not like sweating, heartbeat, not like this. Only anxious and nervousness.
okay, no. Sometimes people don't really have very overt physical signs of anxiety, but there is that constant worry, so it could still kind of count as that, right? So okay, I'll just go through the physical signs. So sweating, trembling, shortness of breath, stomach discomfort are usually the signs that people see, right? Sorry. Then difficulty controlling worrying thoughts or repetitive anxious thinking. All right, one person, that's good. Okay, a few more hands there.
These
Then
are also in physical. Ma'am, these are also in physical. The
no,
one showing in the slide.
yeah, no, these are not physical symptoms.
Yeah, that's also happening with me. I am avoiding the people who cause anxiety, and also I'm having sleep problems. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all right. Thank you, for sharing. Then sleep problems such as trouble falling asleep or restlessness is again a common symptom. And then avoiding situations or people because they cause anxiety. Is that something people have been experiencing here?
I experience all this, but the physical symptoms that you mentioned in the earlier slide, they are. I do not experience any of that.
Like I
Yeah,
mentioned,
yes,
it's not
both.
always the case.
I am also
Is
same.
that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. It does happen at times where you don't have those overt physical symptoms, but there is that excessive worry and other issues in which that can happen.
Yeah, somebody also mentioned that he does not experience physical symptoms, only nervousness.
Mhm. Yes, definitely. Yeah, that can happen in situations. That is possible.
Okay, okay.
Right. So again, thank you for kind of giving me a thumbs up. So we did kind of cover a few symptoms that people feel, but we'll go a little bit more into detail. Um, right. Again, I think somebody is trying to raise their hand. If possible, could you please direct your question to the chat box? And my colleagues, could you get back to you regarding that? Right. So now we'll talk about how anxiety actually shows up. So it's not just mental. In psychological terms, we kind of group these symptoms into four different categories. So the first is physical, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral. So physically, anxiety can make your heart race. It can make your stomach feel uneasy, your muscles tense up. Not everybody, but some people may feel sweaty, shaky, dizzy, or have trouble breathing. A lot of people experience headaches, stomach issues without realizing it's really linked to anxiety. Then, cognitively, anxiety affects your thinking. So, it fills your mind with what if scenarios, worst case thinking, and doubts. It makes it hard to concentrate or make decisions because your mind is busy scanning for danger constantly. Then, emotionally, anxiety can make you feel
Lack of focus can also come in this, no?
lack of.
Cognitive lack of focus in this cognitive.
Yes, yes, yeah, it can definitely come under cognitive. Then you're right. So emotionally, it can make you feel overwhelmed, restless, constantly on edge. There is this constant sense of dread that something bad might happen, which is a very integral part of anxiety. Then behaviorally, anxiety can show up as avoidance. So avoiding tasks, avoiding people, avoiding situations, even avoiding text messages is a part of the behavioral symptoms.
I'm getting angry or irritated. That will also come in behavioral.
That would be more emotional because anger, irritability, those are all emotional
That
kind
would
of.
be more emotional.
Yes.
Okay, not in behavioral.
No, because anger in itself is an emotion, and irritability and all of that are kind of just one kind of different ways that anger presents itself.
And
Right.
getting irritated.
Yeah, irritability, anger, and all of those things are kind of it's coming from your emotions. It's coming from not being in a happy place of mind or a happy state of mind. So it's emotional.
Okay, not behavioral.
No. Then procrastination is a huge behavioral symptom of anxiety, not laziness. So, like someone had asked about motivation. So, in if you have anxiety, it can hinder your motivation because you avoid a task because it feels threatening to you. You don't want to do it because it causes you that sense of anxiety, that stress. So, all in all, anxiety impacts the whole person and not just the mind. So, one of the most important things to understand is the anxiety cycle. So, anxiety of
Procrastination will come in which symptom, like physical, cognitive, behavioral?
behavior, behavior, because it's avoidance of
Behavioral.
avoiding
Okay,
people's situations, so it will be behavioral.
okay, okay, okay.
So, one of the most important things to understand is again the anxiety cycle. So, like I mentioned before, anxiety often continues because of avoidance. So, for example, let's say you have to give a class presentation. You start worrying about it. What if I mess up? What if people judge me? That's basically the thought process going on in your head. Your body, in turn, can, because of that anxiety, because of that stress, become shaky. You might feel a tightness in your chest. You might feel your heart racing. Those are, again, all the physical symptoms of anxiety we talked about. And then you decide to avoid it. Maybe you email the teacher saying you're sick or hope they skip your turn. And the moment you avoid it, that's a huge relief. You think, thank God I don't have to do it. But the problem is that your brain learns that avoiding the situation is what kept you safe. So next time, the anxiety becomes even bigger, and avoidance in turn kind of shrinks your world. It may seem hard, but facing things slowly and safely is what kind of helps come out of anxiety, even if it's the thing that's causing you the most anxiety. So once again, you feel anxious because of a specific situation, then you want to avoid that situation. By avoiding that situation, you in that moment feel very good. You feel, like things are completely better. But the more you do it, the more you make it a part of your practice, you start avoiding that thing over and over again, which kind of increases your anxiety without you realizing it. So that's our anxiety cycle.
Yeah, ma'am, I am having this problem. Similar.
Hmm. All right, I'm glad that you guys can kind of relate. Now, it's very important to understand the impact that anxiety can have in our life, because there are multiple areas of our life that it kind of impacts us on. Um, and we'll be kind of going through it one by one, the different places where it can show up and how it can show up. So, a question to you guys: before an important exam or an important event in your life, um, whether it's a work task or anything, do you feel like it affects your ability to focus or think clearly? Yes, somebody raised their hand.
Ma'am, can you please show the last slide, please?
It's basically just an introductory slide which talks about how anxiety impacts, differently, like how it can impact different domains of a person's life. There isn't really much to it. We'll go into it more. Right.
Okay,
So I think somebody said yes to how anxiety kind of impacts their ability to focus or think clearly. Anybody else? Do you think it does affect your focus, or despite that, are you able to feel, like you can concentrate on task?
Yeah, my semester before my semester exam, I also felt very nervous about the exam. Very, very nervous.
Mm-hmm. All right. Right, definitely it does kind of show up in that nervousness, and it very distracting. You can think about like potentially what the teacher might ask. You're not thinking about the answers or the stuff you've learned. Yes, everything gets dizzy and feels unreal for sure. Right, Nikita, you've raised your hand? Do you want to answer? Okay, no. Lakshay, you've also raised your hand. Do you want to answer? Okay, Nikita said yes. Mm-hmm. Somebody else has raised their hand.
yes, ma'am.
Right. Yes. What would you like to say?
Amit, please.
Ma'am, truly anxious can be affected our ability on focus. Whether
Mm-hmm.
we know the answers on the exam paper very well
Mm-hmm.
by presenting the correct answer in the lecturer's questioning questioning time, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, when it get to getting anxious in the exam hall can be maybe very can be very risky. That means we know the answer but can't write and we lose the marks we got.
Mm-hmm.
That's very problematic.
No, definitely. And I feel like a lot of people would relate to your experience. So thank you for sharing that. So, right, for most people, it is yes, that it does affect your ability to think clearly. So,
I'm always the fear of whether I'll be able to do this. Am I capable enough of doing it? That thing comes.
mhm. Right, definitely. So, it has a very direct impact on our academics, on our work. So, anxiety makes it hard to concentrate, like we've discussed. It makes it hard to remember information and hard to even start tasks. So, like I mentioned before, many people procrastinate because they're anxious, not because they're lazy. The fear of failure or of not doing things perfectly makes the brain freeze, which, is due to this anxiety. It causes that emotional exhaustion that kind of doesn't want you to continue with the task at hand and completely avoid it. And all of this in turn can lead to a low confidence in your abilities and your, performance academically or work related. Another very important area where this sorry has an impact is on our physical health. So anxiety affects our sleep, it affects our appetite, our overall immunity, energy levels. Chronic anxiety keeps the body in fight or flight mode, like I previously kind of talked about, which makes it very exhausting. So in a lot of cases of anxiety, people often think that something is usually physically wrong with them, when it's actually the body just responding to constant stress signals. And that's why people aren't able to kind of differentiate between those two, not understanding that it's usually anxiety. So, it can also lead to like certain heart related problems, a lot of cardiovascular strain. Um, you're constantly, in a state of being hyper aware of your surroundings, which can cause a lot of muscle tension and pain. And like I said, the fight or flight response, it usually, takes resources from our body. So when our body is constantly actively looking for threats, it's constantly on alert, it can lead to very like weakened immunity. Now, when, how anxiety presents itself in social situations. So, um, how does, have in your personal experiences, how does anxiety make you feel in social situations? So, A, does it make you feel nervous? B, do you end up becoming very quiet, not really talking to people? C, insecure? Or D, are you somebody who can remain confident despite feeling anxious? Someone said A and C, so nervous and insecure, nervous, insecure.
B, C, not D.
Mm-hmm. Nervous and insecure, okay. Right. Right. Somebody raised their hand. Do you want to answer? B
Yes,
and
ma'am.
C. Yes, go ahead.
Sometimes it feels like quiet is the better situation I can do, and also the confident. It comes like when I know the something thing I can do in the social anxiety situation, I will be confident in that situation. If I didn't know the situation well
Mm-hmm.
or any acknowledgement
Mm-hmm.
is raised uh, through my mind,
Mm-hmm.
that situation I will quit.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you for sharing that. And I feel like that's something that many people can relate to. It does happen that, you don't really know how to do it. Your brain, because of that anxiety kind of shuts down. So you end up being quiet in these type of situations. Right.
Ma'am, when you're confident, how can you be anxious?
It's basically, some people, when it comes to certain professions, people learn to kind of mask their anxiety by pretending to be confident, or, some people do the opposite of how they're feeling because they kind of get used to it. They deal with the anxiety in the background, but in the foreground, they have to present, or they have to do a job that requires them to like interact with people a lot. So in that case, some people can appear to be confident while, internally that whole thing might be draining them.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Right. So a little bit more about this. So in relationships, anxiety can make communication harder. Some people become clingy because they fear losing people. Others withdraw because they're afraid of being judged. Small disagreements feel bigger because you're overthinking the reaction, or you're overthinking the consequences of that disagreement. You might constantly seek reassurance, or you might avoid difficult conversations altogether. This in turn leads to, increasing isolation. So you will feel lonely in that situation when you kind of start disconnecting with people because of avoidance, because of that fear of judgment, and that further increases your anxiety. And then another very core area where anxiety impacts us is our identity. So anxiety can make you doubt yourself. It can make you feel not good enough, or like you're always one mistake away from everything falling apart. It can make you seek validation from others or avoid opportunities that would help you grow. simply because you don't believe you can handle them. So over time, anxiety can shape how you see yourself, your abilities, your worth, your potential. And, you know, if it's shaped in a negative way, then it can impact your self esteem, your self compassion for yourself very negatively. Now, as you all must have seen through this presentation, there are a lot of implications of anxiety, and in itself, anxiety is such a huge topic, a very vast topic, that it's not very possible for us to cover it within just a 1 hour session. So, we have created a 2 day workshop for you guys, which will help you not only understand anxiety, but actually work towards managing it more effectively. Um, I'll give you a brief on what we will try to be covering in these 2 days. So the first day is just, a brief introduction again. We did touch a little bit upon the different types of anxiety, but we'll go a bit more deeper into understanding the differences between, what generalized anxiety is, how is it different from social anxiety, and all the different phobias, as well as what are the potential causes behind it. Like a lot of people had questions about like the biological aspects of it, the neurochemicals of it. So we'll go more deeper into that. Then understanding potential triggers, the different types of triggers that can kind of exist. And then we'll kind of go towards how to cope with anxiety more. So grounding techniques, how they can be beneficial for anxiety, what they are and how they help. Then mindfulness and relaxation technique, again, what it is, how can it help. More ways to cope other than these specific things, in a lot more detail. And like I mentioned in our past slide, how anxiety kind of affects our identity and our self-compassion. So in the cases where that does happen, how do we rebuild that self-compassion for ourselves? And then finally, because, anxiety is something that can always kind of manifest itself at any point in your life. So we will give you some techniques on how you can deal with relapse prevention when that anxiety, when that fear comes back into your life. How do you manage it so that it doesn't affect you the way that it probably did before? So just an example of one of the techniques that we cover in our paid workshop. This is the 478 breathing technique, which is a part of the grounding techniques that I mentioned. It's a very powerful grounding technique, and it's something that you can use anytime anxiety starts to rise. So it can be before an exam, even in the middle of a stressful conversation, or when you're trying to fall asleep and your mind is racing. I'll tell you how it works. So you breathe in through your nose for a count of 4, and then you hold that breath gently for a count of 7, and then you exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 8. The numbers here are important because they force your body to slow down. So if you guys want to try it out in the session, if you want to do it with me in the session, give me a quick thumbs up and we'll do it. If you understand, then, all right. All right, so I see a few thumbs up. So we'll just do it in the session. So get into a comfortable position, however you feel. If you're lying down, if you want to lie down, or if you just want to get up and do it, then, that's up to you. So after you get into a comfortable position, just take a deep breath in through your nose for 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now you can exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you can keep repeating this cycle using these same numbers until you start feeling your anxiety going away, you start feeling calm. So coming to why does this help? When we're anxious, our breathing becomes very fast and shallow without us even noticing. That tells our brain that there's danger, which then keeps our anxiety constantly going. But when you lengthen your exhale, like we do in the 8 count that we did for this exercise, you're sending a direct signal to your nervous system that you're safe. The heart rate starts to settle, the body loosens up, and the brain comes out of that threat mode. Most people feel a shift even after 3 or 4 rounds. And when it comes to these things, it's not really about doing it perfectly. It's just about reminding your body that it's allowed to relax. So whenever you feel anxiety rising, think of the 478 as a reset button for your nervous system to help you feel a bit more calm. Then a little bit more on the paid workshop that we will be having. After the workshop, the participants will be given a few worksheets, a few takeaways that they can keep with them. It basically covers everything that we will cover in the workshop in detail that they can have as their own personal reference. So the first thing that we will be giving is an anxiety managing anxiety ebook. So all of what are emotional regulation techniques, grounding techniques, will go into it more detail, the science behind them for anybody who's kind of interested on that, followed by a grounding exercise worksheet. So, like the 478 technique, there are multiple other techniques that are, you know, scientifically proven to work to help reduce anxiety. We have right, sorry. So we've compiled them in a worksheet so you guys can have a look at it, and you can use any type of exercise which feels right for you. This was just one example, but there are multiple, so you can find the one that helps you, helps your nervous system better. um, we also will give you a worksheet that talks about journaling prompts. So a lot of people that I deal with, like a lot of my clients, they always say that they want to journal or they have started journaling, but they find it very hard to figure out where to start from. So these journaling prompts can kind of act as your introduction, or kind of help you figure out how to journal your thoughts in a way that are productive and help you reduce that anxiety. So we've curated multiple prompts that help deal with different stages of anxiety, whether it's identifying triggers, managing negative thoughts, more the what if thoughts that we've discussed, as well as building that self compassion again. There's also an anxiety questionnaire. It is not something that can diagnose an anxiety disorder, but it helps you understand your symptoms, understand the severity of your symptoms. So you can use that as a way to kind of monitor whether your anxiety feels a bit high or if it's gotten a bit low after doing any of these techniques. And finally, a worksheet that can help you create your own personalized anxiety toolkit from everything we've talked about. So, what grounding exercise suits you, what type of journaling you want to do to help with your anxiety. You can make a kind of a plan for yourself post that session using this worksheet.
Can you tell
Um,
me how can I get them?
I will get to that. Let me just talk a little bit about these examples here. So, like I mentioned before, these are some of the samples of the journaling prompts that we have curated for you. So it includes stuff like, what does my anxiety usually try to protect me from, which is helping you identify potential triggers. Then how has anxiety shaped the way I see myself? Again, the self compassion, the identity aspect of it. What would my kindest self say to me right now? Again, building self compassion, um, getting rid of like the negativity, the low confidence that you may have because of your anxiety. Again, these are just three very short examples, but we have more full length examples in the worksheet which you can kind of go through and see which one suits you, what phase of your anxiety, managing anxiety journey you want to work on. Now, coming to how to register for the workshop, on the WhatsApp group that we have for this introductory workshop, we will send out details on when the workshop will be conducted and everything. In that message, you will have a Google form which you will have to fill out. That after filling out that form, it will ask you to pay a fee of rupees 195, a very nominal fee for this. You will just have to pay it. The link will be in the Google form itself. After paying it, the screenshot of the payment that you made, you have to upload it again just on that Google form. And then after that, we'll add you to a separate group for the paid workshop, where again more details will be given to you, and then you can attend the workshop. And after attending it, all the takeaways that I mentioned before will be handed to you individually, as well as participation certificates. Right. So that basically brings us to the end of this session. I just want to take this time to remind people who, since we talked a lot about symptoms and triggers and different types of anxiety, if any part of this workshop resonated with you a little too much, please do consider counseling. It can definitely help you get a more individualized support that you need to kind of deal with that anxiety, because as you've seen, it can impact us in so many ways and have a lot of negative consequences in our life if it's not properly managed. So do consider opting for personalized counseling if it feels like it's getting too much, or if you resonate a little too much with what we've talked about today. Other than our counseling, MindTribe also offers a bunch of free resources. So we have free group therapies which run for 12 weeks. And right now we have groups on academic excellence, social anxiety. We also have past group therapies which were on anger management. So we have these different group therapies focusing on one individual topic that you can opt for. Other than that, our YouTube channel has a lot of self-help tutorials, guided meditations, and insightful podcasts that you can look into. I'll leave the slide on the screen for a few minutes so that if you want to contact us, the email ID and the WhatsApp number given here are things you can contact us if you have any further questions, if you want to know about, what group therapies are currently running, or where you can access specific resources, then you can always reach out to us. And even about counseling, if you have any questions on how we go about it, you can reach out to us. So I'll just pause here for 2 minutes. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being very patient. For
Can you tell me, uh, can you please tell me that the 2 weeks work session is free or it is paid?
the it will be a paid workshop. It will cost, those 2 sessions are for 195.
Only 2 sessions or the full year?
So the paid workshop is a 2-day workshop. For those 2 days, the price will be 195 to attend that workshop.
Only for 2 days.
Yeah, it will be only for 2 days.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Right. So thank you everyone again for very patiently listening to me and for being very proactive and
It will not be weekly, right? Only for 2 days.
yeah, it will not be weekly. It is just for 2 days.
Okay.
Mhm. All right. So if anybody has any questions, then you can, ask. If not, then, feel free to drop off. Thank you once again for attending this workshop. Right, Kush, do you have a question?
Ma'am, will we get? Can we get these slides
Uh,
or?
no, I'm sorry. These slides are an exclusive property of MindTribe. We cannot just, freely give them out to people like that. Um,
Okay, and can we get a recording of this if it's possible?
yes, so all our workshops are recorded, and in due time, I think around a week's time, they are uploaded to our YouTube channel.